Yo, what is happening, YouTube? It's your boy Bolo, aka Pat Phoenix. And as you can see, this is a Jubilee video. If you know anything about them, they try to paint themselves as like middle of the road. They have interesting content, but we know they're very left-leaning. I didn't see the video yet, but I seen the title to the video, and that was enough for me to say it's worth taking a look. Now, these are my predictions. I haven't seen the video yet, but my predictions is that you're gonna have a couple people for it, a couple against it, and the points for against it will be men bigger, stronger, faster, no fair, very stuff that we've heard a million times. And you know, after puberty, there's it doesn't matter what the hormones do, which is all right, but there are some points that I don't really hear being tackled, because there are things that outside of the physical aspect of being a male or female are huge differences that will affect how we do things. So I pulled up 2 pages, well, 2 subjects, but 3 pages that will demonstrate that if it needs to be brought up. Because maybe somebody will bring it up. I could be wrong and someone might bring it up, but I have yet to see people talk about these things in this discussion. So let's get into the video.
If you truly believe that trans women have an advantage, even with hormones, then that means you truly believe that trans men have a disadvantage, even with hormones. So the argument that you hear most of the time is against trans women. So does that mean that you're okay with trans men having that disadvantage?
Okay, this is why this is why your point is stupid, sir. The gap, you're not wrong with what you're saying, but the point that you're trying to make is stupid, and I'll say why. The gap between trans men and biological males is a lot closer, because you can just pump yourself with more testosterone. You can close the gap. Now, will the bone density be there? I'm not sure, because of you already completed puberty, and maybe you know your bone structure's already done, but you can pack on a lot more muscle with steroids. You can close the gap, you know. But a trans woman, that gap is going to be a lot further, because of the advantages that growing up as a male gave this individual. So yes, the trans man has a disadvantage, but it's slight in comparison to what the trans woman has as an advantage in the sports athletic world. Okay, so you're not wrong, but the point you're trying to make is just not smart.
See, I've been playing indoor volleyball.
My prediction, I could be wrong. My prediction is that that she's gonna try and mitigate the advantages. I could be wrong, but I don't know, the hair's throwing me off.
For 7 years,
I'm
I've been
judging.
playing beach volleyball for 3 years.
Trans athletes have an unfair advantage. Step forward if you agree.
See, red hair. I called it. Oh, okay.
When you first think about transgender athletes, I guess the first thing you think about is, well, biologically, transition usually happens after puberty, right? So if this biologically male athlete goes through puberty, he gets better bone structure, he has all these skills that he enhances, all these muscle that he puts on, and then he transitions. Yes, your testosterone levels go down, but you're always just gonna have that things that you've gone through during puberty that you have after you've transitioned. So
100% correct. There are things that you just can't undo. You can stop the progress, but the progress that's already been made is there to stay. You're not gonna all of a sudden make your bones smaller. You're not gonna change your skeletal structure.
I feel like there's always gonna be that advantage.
I think it's dependent on the gender that they are transitioning to. For example, trans women do have somewhat of an advantage. Biological men are naturally born with higher bone density and larger lung capacity and a larger heart, and that's not something that can necessarily be changed with hormones. Of course, this isn't the same for trans men athletes?
For me, it's just on average, guys are typically a little bit stronger, a little bit larger, a little bit taller.
You're being nice. A lot stronger.
Among cisgender men and cisgender women, there are naturally differences in their anatomy, in their hormonal levels, in their height, bone structure, all that stuff. Like any cisgender woman compared to another might have a different body type. Some women are naturally very strong.
No, they're naturally very strong compared to other women. Okay, the strongest women, like if they're not like abusing steroids, will be probably not even the average man. Like, we're just being honest. Like, I follow women that lift heavy, lift hard, and they've been lifting for years. And like a milestone is like 200 pounds. Like if they hit 200 pounds on the bench, and no, I'm not taking credit away from them, it's an incredible accomplishment. But I was able to do that in a couple months of lifting. Okay, and I'm an average guy, average genetics, I'm nothing special. Within a couple months, I was doing 225 pounds on the bench.
With this argument is that there's a large group of people that no matter what I do in a sport will always automatically assume that I have an advantage.
Because you
they're
do.
Not taking into account hours that I put into practice, hours that I put into weightlifting to become a better athlete. Roller derby is probably 90+% cis women. I get my ass handed to me. Like, yes, I am tall, and I can see that that can be an advantage in some sports, but it doesn't necessarily guarantee.
If you are getting your ass beat by women, I mean, you look like you're well above 6 feet, probably like 6'3", 6'4". You're towering over probably 95% of your competitors. If you're still getting your ass handed to you, which I don't believe, then you suck. You're terrible at the sport. That's all that means.
Athletes should have a separate category in certain sports.
I want to say that they should be in a completely different category. Just
Yes, they should.
Socially and legally, yes, they are that gender that they transition to, and putting them in another category just seems, from hindsight, seems wrong, but as an
No, it doesn't. They have their own flag. Like they have a flag saying, hey, look at me, I'm transitioning. So yes, they want to be a part of being a man or a woman, but they have a flag singling themselves out of that group that they are transitioning to. So why can they have their own flag and their own movement, but they can't have their own league or specification inside of a sport?
I guess.
Yeah, I think that there definitely are some sports where your physical ability makes a much larger impact on the sport itself. Wrestling would be one of them, swimming, track, something like that. But if you look at NASCAR as a sport, I believe that anyone can then go and do that sort of.
Okay, so this is my point right here. So he actually did the opposite of what actually is the truth, where the differences between men and women are not just man bigger, stronger, more bone density. That's not it. Spatial reasoning, men outperform women. Okay, so seeing a 3D object and knowing how it's going to react, aiming, things like that, knowing how to judge distance, men are documented as being better at. Okay, and that makes a big difference in something like racing, where you have to judge corners and all kinds of things and how you're gonna, overtake your opponent. That matters. Okay, also reaction time. There are plenty of studies that back up all these things that show that men have far better reaction times. You don't think that matters in something like racing or even esports? If it was only physical, you wouldn't have to have Counter-Strike or fighting game tournaments where the women can do their own thing so they can win something. Okay, if it was just that, Danica Patrick should have a lot more W's. And not only Danica Patrick should have more W's, there should be more women riding in there and driving in there and competing with the men. You would think they would have an advantage being so much lighter. That should give them some kind of advantage as far as speed, correct? But there are other differences. It's not just man bigger, stronger, bigger lungs. Bruh. No, it's not just that. Faster reaction times, we can judge things better as far as the world and how things react, okay? This is documented. So this guy is just plain wrong.
Sport, because that's more of a technique.
No, it isn't.
Other sports like golf requires a lot of technique and a lot of strength. Plus video games is now starting to make a massive rise. So all of those could definitely.
Yes, and women can't compete with men. They're not winning in fighting games. Now, there are some really good like females that game. Don't get me wrong. Like I actually follow a couple of them that play Tekken, you know, things like that. There's some girls that are great at shooters, but they are outliers. Like for every woman that is like, say she is an S tier player in the world, there's probably 100 guys that are at that level and higher for each one female. And I'm trying to be nice about it, because you might see one or two that are just peak level, and then none of them can ever beat those top guys. None of those women beat the top of the top guys ever. And according to the numbers, women make half of gamers. So there's no excuse to say, well, there's only like 5 women that game. No, they game just as much as guys. Okay, so it's not just strength and size. It's not just that. There are a lot of differences. Our brains are different. Everything about us is different. You have to think about it like this. Okay, this is an analogy that I use. You have to think of your body as what it is, a vehicle. It's a vehicle that your brain tells how to navigate the world, right? Would you drive a Lamborghini the same way you would drive a 4-wheeler or a Jeep? Would you go off-roading with a Ferrari? No. So you in the car, you're the brain to this car. So when you see the body that you have, which is the actual vehicle, you have to judge how you're going to get around. Your brain has to adjust to those things. You look at any animal. Why does the leopard drag its food to the, on top of trees? Because that's what its body is made to do. So your brain follows. Men and women's bodies are built for 2 different things. So why would their brains operate the same? It doesn't make sense. So when I hear people say, oh, well, yeah, we're different physically, but our brains are the same. How could that be? When your brain isn't thinking about the same tasks as the other sex because you're not capable of it.
The danger of it is that you're possibly outing somebody. In America alone, there's several places that it's still extremely dangerous to be an open transgender person. To say that you can't perform unless you're in this group, there's just a lot of safety reasons for that individual.
So now, instead of attacking the scientific side of it, they're guilt tripping. Very typical move where it's just like, I'm gonna make you feel bad for you to bend the knee and see it my way because I might die. Like that's the whole argument here. If you don't agree with me, I'm gonna die.
That is not good. Second thing, where does the line draw? You're saying swimming, and you had mentioned earlier that like height was an advantage. Did I go through puberty as a male? Yes. But in order to say that I have an advantage because I was born with testosterone is the equivalent of saying that, oh, I went to this gym one time and I lifted and I had a protein shake, so I should never have to take a protein shake again because it's in my body. And the medicine I'm taking stops that testosterone. I don't have that anymore.
I cannot believe this individual actually tried to make this point. I'm gonna let them finish before I chime in.
My entire body, my entire mind, my entire way of thinking is different because of the medicine I'm on.
Are we gonna start making categories for cis athletes? Okay, you're in a category if you're 5'9" and above.
They have that dumbass. This is a fucking idiot right here. They have weight divisions, you fucking idiot. They have weight divisions in bodybuilding. They have them in combat sports. You dumbass.
I personally think that the hormone testing is really important. And just coming from like a fitness perspective, like fitness, bodybuilding, like that sort of athletics, for me, I take a lot of pride in the fact that my testosterone levels are within the normal range of a cisgender male. Obviously, performance enhancers, right? Steroids, extra testosterone, all those things are thrown around among cisgender men in the fitness world to, you know, enhance their performance, get bigger, all that sort of thing. And for me, being able to say like, no, I am within the normal range of a cisgender man. The muscle I'm putting on, I'm naturally putting on. I don't have an advantage over anybody else.
You're not natural. Look, you're in the natural range of a man, but you're not putting it on naturally because you are injecting artificial, you know, substances into your body. You're not naturally producing this. So you're not naturally putting on this muscle, because if you didn't inject yourself, you wouldn't be putting it on. Not at that level anyway. So this is, I mean, these people, the gymnastics.
That's in that normal range. So I think for me, like, it's just really important because I'm like proud of that. And I think if you just assume that a trans person has an advantage because they're taking testosterone, it's kind of like, well, what about cis men that take testosterone?
Yeah, they get banned from the sports, you idiot. If they get caught, obviously. What? This person? Yeah, you're tied for the bottom barrel right here.
To get bigger and that sort of thing, so.
How you doing, man?
Like, there's literally whole YouTube channels and communities that are exposing and outing men that take steroids in the lifting community that say that they're natural. Like, there's literally a whole online, I mean, the best word I could think of it is industry, where they're making money basically off of outing biological men that are on steroids that deny it.
By my fellow athletes.
In high school, when I came out like prominently, everybody knew that I was trans, and there was a coach that exploited me in a lawsuit to try to ban me in high school. Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Wow.
I was on hormone blockers, and it was suppressing my estrogen and testosterone. And even though everybody knew who I was, when it came to like after junior high, when he did that, it was so aggressive. Parents would scream from the stands that they wanted to hurt me. As being a trans man and just in my life in general, my family doesn't come from.
Yeah, I really don't condone that behavior. Like, parents, you're supposed to be a lot more mature. Threatening, I mean, trans or not, that's a child. Shouldn't be threatening a child. Now, the school board, on the other hand, they have a lot of decisions to make. Okay, because they're the ones that basically let someone that is transitioning to be a man basically pummel the shit out of girls. So that's really on them. The parents trying to get on this kid, they're in the wrong, 100%.
Much, and we work very hard. And I'm like the first generation to try to become something. So, I mean, the haters. Your body's a vessel. It shouldn't matter whether you're male or female, because I feel like the sport, like sports in general, is growing. Especially there's this like little girl in wrestling. She wrestled in the junior division and in wrestling and nationals in the 106-pound division, and she kicked all the guys' asses.
Yeah.
You're talking about little kids. Before puberty, little boys and little girls are basically the same. Like, physically, they're basically the same. So to use this as an example, how grown men and grown women should play in the same sport is insane. This is actually insane. And the fact, man.
Yeah.
I was like, go for you.
Yeah, that was that female coming out right there.
All the guys' asses.
Yeah.
I was like, go for you.
That is.
So I feel like as the sport's growing, as we're evolving as a society, and we're being very progressive, that it should get to the point if we're talking about gender-neutral bathrooms, why can't we talk about gender-neutral sports?
I actually wrote...
You know what? I take it back. I agree I would like I would like to watch this where a bunch of grown men and a bunch of grown women, collegiate and up, they play against each other. I would like to see that. I would like to see the women try out for the football team, for the soccer team, for the baseball. I would like to see that.
And
because then that'll put an end to all this bullshit, all the speculation of what I think is gonna happen and how I feel and my truth. All that shit will be put to rest.
it's not going to be a co-ed team versus an all-male team. It's going to be a co-ed team versus a co-ed team. So I feel like.
And that means no girls are getting any burn.
There would still be.
Why the fuck would a coach not just play 5 dudes? I mean, honestly, if we're gonna talk about it, the co-ed teams would very quickly boil down to either all male, or they would have as many women as they're supposed to, and they would barely get any burn. The only way women are getting on those teams is if the school, I guess, board or the athletic board association was gonna say, hey, you guys got 12 players on the team, and you know, you can have up to 8 men, 4 of them have to be women. That's the only way women are gonna make it onto like a basketball team. And the only way they're gonna get any burn and actually get any playing time if they said, hey, you have to have at least 20 minutes of game time distributed or diverted to women players. It's the only way. If you had co-ed teams only, it would be basically all male teams at that point, very short after.
Strategy that
the best like MMA female athletes, cis, have male training partners, and most of the time like they're kicking their ass unless like they're training for, or unless they have somebody that's better than them to push them, and then that's just making them a better athlete.
You don't know how this is actually insane. Your training partner is not there to whoop your ass. They're there for you to beat on them or to work on technique. Why the fuck would you have a training partner that is trying to knock your top off when you're supposed to be training to fight someone else? They're not there to hurt you. Imagine you're sparring with someone and they break your jaw. And now the fight that you were going to be getting paid for, you have to back out of because your training partner was going too hard. It's like this person doesn't even understand the point of a sparring partner. They're not there to actually fight you. They're there to work on technique and strategies against the opponent that you are actually going to go against.
Opinion, like kids are extremely accepting. I have 2 gorgeous kids,
and you've got kids.
It's so cool to have them play on a playground and explain to their new friends who I am, and like watch them do that. And their kids, like their friends, will be like, "Oh, okay," you know. But you talk to an adult, and they're like, you know, because you have this instilled, like what you were saying, this instilled education from the time you were.
No, we have an understanding of the world. Okay, that's what it is. We have an understanding of the world.
Born. That has basically said that, no, this is wrong. You have to have this group, you have to have this group, you have to have this group. Like, I do talk about it a lot with people, but I have to.
You know what, since kids are smart, how about you give them all the money that you earn at work? How about you do this? You give them all the money that you earn from whatever you do for a living, give it to them, and let them make all the financial decisions for your household. Because they're smarter, they get it. They know what to do. Adults are dumb, right? So every dollar you make, say, hey, Billy and Jan, here's the money that would be used for the rent and the bills, but you guys got it figured out. So you decide what to do with this money. Would you do that? No, because they're children. Holy fuck.
Try, you know?
Yeah, but it looks like the video's over. I'm sorry if this is too long for you. But I really just felt like I had to address this because there are a lot more differences between men and women than they try to give credit for or credit to. Yeah, just let me know what your thoughts on this in the comments below. And yeah, peace. I'm out of here.